Hello and welcome to RPL F2. It is time for another round of racing. I'm your commentator, Ryan Ocon, and it is good to have everybody join us today. Scyther leads the championship by a whopping 58 points. However, that can be clinched today if the right scenarios happen and everything comes together for your championship leader. There are 8 drivers still eligible for the championship, but after today, there's a chance there might be 2 or 3, maybe 1. Not only is there a driver's championship on the line, but there's also a constructor's championship on the line. That cannot be won today as well, but Searles last week extended their lead by quite the margin. They are 45 points ahead. Trident is 53 behind. The other teams, such as Carlo and Campos and everyone else, are a race or more behind. So we still will at least have a minimum of 3 teams involved in the constructors fight heading to next week. However, the drivers championship is the one we are going to watch out for today. Not going to shift our focus too much on the constructors until next week. So we appreciate everybody who has joined us today and everybody who will join us for today, whether it be drivers or spectators. But it is good to have everybody join us, as previously mentioned. Just fix my mic. It's a little uncomfortable, I'll tell you that right now. It might be a little staticky for a moment. Okay, I think we're good now. Let me just check. I think we should be. That'd be amazing if we are. Nonetheless, let's go over last week. It originally was Scyther who won both the feature race and the sprint race. He got one of those stripped away due to a post-race penalty, meaning the fake TB ended up winning one of those races. Scyther ended up taking the other one still. No harm, no foul for that second one. So that was great to see that he was at least able to keep one of the 2 wins. And yesterday in Tier 2, how about Ferrari? How about Ferrari winning that race? How about Ferrari with a 1-2 with the finish as well? I could not believe watching that finish back yesterday with Bonkers winning, that he was able to get up to 226 miles per hour in the slipstream with DRS enabled and the battery as well. That is just absolutely incredible. So, as more drivers continue to join us, I apologize for adjusting my mic a little bit right there. I know you hear some staticness. Either way, let's talk about some headlines heading into this race. So, Crispy is now on Virtuosi. After a little change between the teams such as Mercedes and Alpine with the Academy with Crispy about not performing to expectations. We have seen what that has just done. It's changed his car in Tier 1 and it's now changed his car in F2 as well. Not only that, but big stuff here. Big stuff. F2 Season 18 signups are underway. If the driving does not improve with F2 I think has been a little silly recently. This would be the last season of F2 if the driving standards do not improve as previously mentioned. With Season 18 signups being open, here's what you need to know. You can sign up in the RPL Discord. If you need help by signing up, add either RPL Streamer on Xbox, RPL Titan Iron on Xbox, or we will help get you a Discord invite either through Titan himself or any of the other admins. If you would like to race, obviously, and you are in the chat and watching races, please let us know. Because if you do not let us know and you would like to race, obviously we would have to figure something out at that point. Here is what the rest of the things you need to know about signups. 16 drivers have currently signed up for F2 next season full-time. One driver has said that he can do most races, would be a reserve, most likely. On the Google form that you end up seeing for signups for next season for F2, as we come down to the final 3 races now of the season, there is 3 required options and 1 optional thing on the form. As previously mentioned, if you're just joining us, another factor as well is the fact that Scyther can win the World Drivers' Championship today. His team, Searles, have to wait for the constructors, though. Good to have you in chat, Matt. It is very nice to see you. We are waiting on a couple of drivers. We are on a 5-minute hold. Currently 3 minutes into that hold. Blue Goggy had joined in late. He previously notified Titan that he would be joining in late. Obviously, he has joined in a little quicker than some. Also, to start the session, because of coming in within the last hour, we have 2 drivers making their first starts today. You see PSR Francie in the lobby. He is making his first start. He has got to serve a qualifying ban for that decision being decided within the last hour. Speaking of that, if I were to be in, I'm just going to use a example or a idea or a suggestion as a commentator. If I were in charge of RPL, I understand the choice, I guess, of the qualifying ban being introduced for drivers who join in within the last hour. It totally makes sense. But within the last couple of weeks, it has caused more confusion than not. So if by next season with Tier 2 and F2, or even Tier 1 later in the season as well, that rule gets scrapped, I would totally understand that as well, and I would actually agree because of the confusion. So both both new PSR drivers, such as Francie and Davey, both have to serve qualifying bans due to that. Yeah, my personal opinion with that, speaking of that rule, I understand it. I totally get why it's implemented. It makes 100% sense, in my honest opinion. But the problem is there's been way too much confusion with it to where it gets a little silly. And there are some things that are clearer about the rule that I don't really pay attention to, in my honest opinion. But I feel like the rule causes more issues than not. And that's what we kind of cannot have, in my opinion. It's a bad look, especially last week in Canada, I believe, when you had 6 drivers retiring in Tier 1. And then it had to be changed to short qualifying. We had 18 drivers there. Why could we not have done full qualifying? Well, that is exactly why. And that, to me, is a little silly. I understand the rule, like I mentioned previously. But I feel like it causes a little too much issues to where you gotta change it for next season, in my honest opinion. Before we get into qualifying, let's go over some tricky corners of this Jeddah circuit in just a moment. Yeah, I agree with you, Invade, there in the chat. I would love to see a great result from you and others. We'll just have to find out with qualifying getting underway now. Tricky corners of this track. Let's talk about it. Let's go over it. Turn 4. That's a tricky corner to go side by side. I think you get away with it more in F2 cars than you do the F1 cars. The S section is so tricky. The curbs here are much more tougher. You cannot plant your car on them the way you could last game. How about the chicanes before DRS? Turn 15 through 18. How about turn 22 to turn 24? Those are some tricky corners. The chicanes before DRS are extremely, extremely tough. Not only is it extremely tough to go wheel to wheel through there, but it's also tough in the sense you got to plant your car right, as previously mentioned, just like the S section. So, time to get underway for qualifying. Scyther is the only driver to have multiple pole positions in the season. He is trying to get Searles another one as well as himself, and that would be crucial for the title. Let's get underway for qualifying. Daytime at Saudi Arabia. We might have the feature race in the night. I could be wrong. Last time I saw some action at Jeddah in F2, I was racing and it was in the nighttime. This time it is in the daytime. There's always that risk of rain at Jeddah, it seems, when it comes to, I guess, more of the way we're at with this sort of track, as Francie obviously serves that qualifying ban he's got. Let's go on board with a different driver than what we're used to running with. How about Trat Racer? Was doing good in this session. He's currently 7th. Let's go on board with him for the first half of this lap. And as we get to the end of Sector 2, Scyther currently on top. Blonde currently 2nd. Those guys 1 and 2 currently have multiple wins in the season. They're the only 2 drivers to have multiple wins in the season as we come through the first and ending bits of Sector 2 now. What is it going to be at the sector split? Let's switch back to Scyther as we see Trat Racer running in the mid-pack. Remember, the top 10 get reversed for the sprint race here coming up. It's going to be Blonde versus Scyther for pole position. It looks like right now it would be Scyther's who's used purple in the middle sector. .58 points ahead of the rest of his competition currently before qualifying today. Well, pole positions were 2 points. And speaking of pole positions, Scyther already has many to his name this season so far. How about add another one? And that is by a long, long margin over his competition. 6.5 tenths Scyther does it. And how about that? Add 2 more points to his name as well. 60 points clear of the field. He could wrap up the title by the end of the feature race today. Scyther wins pole position over Blonde. Valkyrie Mythic. Speaking of Valkyrie and Mythic, they're the ones right behind him in the championship as well. 3rd and 4th on the lineup. That person runs to the top 5. You have Cryptic, Invade, Trat Racer, FBL, and Philodent for the rest of your top 10. Outside the top 10, you have Titan, Bulgogi, who also set times as well. Davey, also had to serve a qualifying ban. Crispy, the back of the grid, and Fancy as well. Gonna start back there for both the feature and the sprint race. Titan struggles. Makes sense now. He did not have a setup, he says. So, we now understand why he was outside of the top 10 right there. So if you had just missed earlier, we're going to talk about it once again before we get underway for the race because there's no formation lap. Scyther, 9 podiums in the season. Mythic with 4, Blonde 4, Tadpole 3, Valkyrie 2, Beatnik 2, and Bourbon Boy 2. Multiple podium sitters on the season with 23 different podium sitters. Let's find out what we can have happen. Scyther, now 60 points ahead. Valkyrie, 80 points behind in third. Mythic in second. Tadpole, 84 points back. And Blonde, 87. Now we're about to get underway. Here for the sprint race. Top 10 get reversed. Here we go. Here come the 5 red lights for the sprint race for F2 once again at Saudi Arabia. It's lights out and away we go. Fiddlin looks like he got off the line as well. You can see cars jockeying for position, trading spots. How about FPL gonna dive down the inside of turn 1? Nearly gonna be contacted. Now FPL's gonna hold her on the outside. You saw his teammate, Tret Racer, make a little slide there at turn 2. And now as we go through turn 3 and head to turn 4, you can see Fiddlin keeping the race lead, still trying to protect his position over FPL. Cryptic follows, and multiple guys changing their positions throughout the field. We have got a crash already. How about Scyther down the order? Crispy's out as well. Crispy's got damage. And we now have a halt to this race. And I cannot tell if it's a safety car or virtual. It looks to be a safety car. Let's see on the side of our screens. It's a VSC. Alright, there we go. So a lot of damage at the back of the field. A lot of drivers collected in melee when it came to turn 4 right there. Some drivers facing backwards, Scyther being one of them. Titan also going down the order as well. And we're now back underway. Also, 3 spots gained for Francie, 3 spots gained for Grandpa. We have a corner cutting penalty by Davey right there. I think I saw him in the background. Used the runoff. He's not the only one with a penalty. Francie has one as well as we have an attack for the lead. How about FPL down the inside and almost making contact with our race leader? Here we go, on the run to turn 27, Tret Racer already making a move on Cryptic behind that. How about FBL ducking out to the inside line once again? Cryptic now holding his spot at 3rd place. Philodin leading this race. He does not have a podium in the season. 23 different podium sitters to this season so far, trying to make it 24 as he leads lap 1. How about down the inside already? FBL trying to make a move. Here we go. Down the inside at turn 1. Gonna have the inside line and switch back for turn 2. And now out of turn 3. He's got the traction, but under the wall behind that, that's Invade, and he has got damage. Davey also has picked up a corner cutting penalty in the process. And there's gonna be contact. We have both cars into the wall. Davey is out. Behind that, that is Titan, I believe, as well, who is collected. And that has brought another halt to this race. And this time, I believe it's a full safety car. No, it's still a VSC. So luckily, we do not have a full safety car. Yeah, timing is a little delayed for us. I will tell you that right now. So I'm having trouble seeing if it's a VSC or a full safety car, but we spoke about the F2 driving centers to start off, and that was one of the big talking points. F2 signups are available for next season, but if the driving standards do not get better, well, we see what can happen. Drivers get out of the race, Admins say they'll pull the plug on F2 and keep it just Tier 1, Tier 2. And that is exactly what will happen if the driving standards do not improve. Here we go, back under green once again. Philident trying to keep the lead over FBL. On the run to turn 27, it looked like FBL lost a little time there out of the chicane. Here's Valkyrie making a move on that person. They're going to go wheel to wheel before turn 27. Who's going to be last on the brakes out of them two? It looks like it's going to be that person on the outside line. However, Valkyrie dives it in deep and almost into the wall they go. But luckily, some clean racing from both of them, squeezing each other, but being fair in the process. How about Cryptic as well, following FBL with DRS enabled this time by. Cryptic, is he thinking of a move by turn 1? The answer is no. We'll see if anyone pits there from that whole collision. I don't think anyone did. It looked like there were 2 cars under the wall. I think whoever it was kept going. If, in fact, one of the cars that were in the wall was Blue Goggy. I thought it was at first, but I saw Titan at the back of the grid, so I thought, maybe Titan was the one who collided there. It was not. It's Blue Goggy who's missing his whole front wing, and he's still trying to stay out right here, which is unbelievable. Scyther now going to go around the outside line, gets the upper edge on Goggy. Now it's Francie trying to get the upper edge on Goggy as well. Does so. Grandpa does so as well. And now it's Titan's turn to follow suit. He is absolutely struggling with no setup. Cryptic as well gets by FBL. FBL going to have his teammate right there for company now for the podium. So 1.5 that gap is for the race lead. And speaking of winners this season in the race lead, we've had 9 different winners this season, and into the wall goes FBL. He absolutely smacked the barriers. As you can see, carbon fiber going everywhere. Got Valkyrie following suit. Now for 4th place, also in the wings is that person as well behind. Valkyrie gets the upper edge, goes ahead. How about that person following around the outside line? Is this going to be 2-1 for that person? How about that person doing what that person just does? Finding ways to come through, and he's still got Valkyrie to his outside. How about 3 wide action for just a moment? FBL gonna pull this down the inside. That person's still hanging on, and Valkyrie still hanging on as well. However, Valkyrie has to concede the place now. It's too little, too late. However, it's not too little, too late to still go back at it. Valkyrie, she's gonna do it around the outside line. How about 4 wide for a moment? Diving down the inside is Invade, giving us some action. That person as well, trying to hold it as well to try to regain traction, regain the spot. Cannot do that just yet. FBL still stays ahead. Invade as well, following suit on that person once again. Smack the wall. Sorry, that was FBL who smacked the wall earlier. Looked like it was Invade who smacked the wall, but it wasn't. Apologies. Oh, and a little bit of contact and a stack up right here. You can see the damage coming into effect with FBL now. He is absolutely holding up the cars behind. Here's that person following suit to the outside. Mythic to the outside. These points from Mythic are absolutely crucial right now. Mythic second in the championship, had Scyther on pole. If he can just get some points in the sprint race, that keeps his chances alive for this feature race. You see FBL dealing with that damage now. It's absolutely coming into effect right now. Behind that, Mythic and Invade, they're all switching suit, switching spots, and trying to gain traction here out of the corners. You can see the front wing damage coming into effect. Really affecting now as Blue Goggy's now got a 3-second time penalty. And the lead is under a second as well. FBL going off the track, and around goes Blonde. Blonde, one of the drivers inside the top 5 in the championship, has now just retired on track. And oh, we've got a crash! Titan Irewolf could not avoid the car that has just retired on track of Blonde, and he is out. Folks, that is why you do not retire on track. That is absolutely dangerous and unacceptable. FBL pits, Invade pits. We're under the virtual safety car for the 3rd time this race. Francie, Grandpa, Blue Goggy, everyone in the last points positions or outside the points are coming. Blue Goggy speeds. Now it's a full safety car. We were a little delayed to that because the safety car came out earlier. Our running order with the live updates is very much behind us. And the top 7, the only ones yet to pit. So as the safety car halts things, we have Invade, Grandpa, FBL, Francie, and Gagi, who all go on to the soft tires for the rest of this race. 5 laps remaining. A chaotic and very interesting sprint race, I'll say, to say the least. And Titan did not realize originally that it was a retirement on track. It was, though, because Blonde's car was still moving. It was. Pack getting caught up now. And it's unfortunate for Titan because that car was absolutely just right off the racing line. And Titan, if he was just maybe an inch or two closer to the right, he would have avoided it. But it just all came crashing down. And we may see some of the front runners pit. Invade was one of them, may have picked up damage. I'll invite Crispy if he's having trouble joining this session again. I think we've got more people added when it comes to through EA. And without a doubt, drivers in the chat such as Blonde, Mythic, upset with driving standards, and that has to be mentioned, not only for the sake of what just happened right there, but before that, tons of contact, tons of driving that just absolutely is questionable. And this is exactly, like I said yesterday, this is exactly where the stewards have to intervene, because this kind of situation is exactly what makes the admins so frustrated that they don't want to continue F2 driving. This is, you know, Tier 2's had their moments where they've been inconsistent this year, and recently Tier 2's been the one that stands out for driving, and so many people have been frustrated. Now we got rid of Leon Miner in Tier 2, and you can see the driving standards yesterday at Vegas were clearly not as bad. Clearly we're not as bad. Grandpa also had a race ban as well. Clearly still was not as bad. And I'm not calling them two out simply for the fact that they are quote-unquote dirty drivers, but in recent races they've had a lot of penalty points and a lot of driving issues when it comes to how bad the driving has been. Tier 2 was one that you look at recent races such as yesterday, USA, I don't know, maybe Spain, as a couple of races that have been the better races out of the inconsistent ones, such as Belgium being one that was bad. Last week as well at Canada. There's races like that where you point the finger and you say, well, that's where Tier 2 is inconsistent. Tier 2 have proven they can do a great job. F2 have, I don't know, F2 had like 10 plus tickets submitted last week. And not even that, but even previous weeks. There are so many incidents reported, it is unbelievable the amount of driving issues that F2 has had. I can't even praise it anymore. I really can't. I mean, previous weeks before Japan, it made total sense as to why I could. Japan, I think I saw absolutely some of the most disgraceful driving ever, in my opinion, in some of the corners. Like, why would you stick it side by side just in certain sections? You just shouldn't. You knew it was just... I'm not saying you shouldn't overtake there at all, but what I'm saying is you just know it's going to end in a collision, and it did last week. And turn 1, there were some questionable things as well that I saw. Scyther included in that. Mythic as well was part of it. I mean, guys, you know, if F2 does not... And Invade said he pitted that other time as well because it didn't fix the damage. You saw Gagi come in again, by the way. But, you know, it's not just going to fix itself. You can't, like I said, stewards have to intervene. You can't blame the drivers too much, or sorry, the stewards too much on this. You have to blame the drivers, because this is exactly the position it gets to. It's because of the drivers. And in all honesty, you know, if you want to make a claim that the stewarding decisions doesn't help it, I get that. But The drivers have put them in this vulnerable position to where it's like, we have to penalize this. We have to step in. Even if it's just the smallest incident, we're going to penalize it harsher because of this. And previously said, like I mentioned about Leon, like I mentioned about Grandpa last week there. You know, drivers like them, you didn't see them in the Tier 2 race yesterday. It's not that it was that much cleaner, but it was that much more calmer. And there's been inconsistent moments with Tier 2, whereas F2's not had that stability. F2's had the same thing happen over and over again, where it's a bunch of questionable driving. Even if no one is at fault in the sense, it's a matter of too many incidents happening. I get some of them happen in their racing incidents, and sometimes people report incidents that they maybe shouldn't, but it's gotten ridiculously out of hand, and hopefully we can see these last 3 or so laps be a bit cleaner for the race victory in the sprint race. Cryptic, your leader, after a problem from Philodin, I think potentially lagging back right there. I said the top 7 you have to pit. Remember, you do not have to pit in the sprint race. However, the feature race coming up is the one you do. Tier 1 later today at Austria, if you are looking for potential cleaner racing on the cards. We are just waiting on when Cryptic chooses to go here in the final corner or potentially out of the final corner for your race leader. When does he go? Just weaving back and forth, and now he's on the gas and he's foot to the floor, and here he comes to the start-finish line to lead this lap, which he previously didn't lead before. You saw Philodin lag back, and now he's under pressure from the podium. Valkyrie following suit. How about Mythic? That person. How about diving down the inside of Scyther for a lot of championship points as Philodin's now lagged out of the race. And that's absolutely going to cost him so many positions for what would have been a first podium of the season. Also behind that, Grandpa gaining spots. Scyther getting spots. How about sending one down the inside? There's Blue Goggy. And in front of that, Scyther, Mythic also side by side. And you see Grandpa falling down the order right there. As for the lead once again, Cryptic and Trat Racer. This is a battle on our hands now for the race victory with 3 laps remaining. Invade with a penalty. You now have 5 drivers left in this race who have a penalty. How about behind that? Moves being made. RPL, Mythic. Turn 13 right there. Gonna try to pull it around the outside. You saw a little slide there. I believe that was from Grandpa or Francie. Side by side here usually ends in tears. And it almost ended in tears right there as RPL is ahead of Mythic now. Grandpa now around the outside with that move as well. And they're all trying to follow Scyther, who's in 5th. And the running order still could change at the end of this race, by the way. That is something crucial to mention. 3/10 the gap with Trat Racer and Cryptic. Blue Goggy now with a penalty once again. Mythic and Francie trading spots. The lead is at stake as well as we had to turn 27. We saw a move being made there in the midfield, but the lead is what we're going to focus on right now. Here we go, following in the slipstream before turn 1. Is Trat Racer going to try this time, or is it going to wait till the last lap, which is coming underway next time by? Blue Goggy trying for his first points of the season. However, we have to switch to the lead as it gets close once again. Remember, Blue Goggy does have a penalty. However, there are guys in front of him who do have penalties too. And with how chaotic this sprint race has been, there still is points in the card for anybody. Except for Philodin, who has lagged out. Trat Racer smacked the wall there just a little bit, nicked it, but he's still within DRS range. Remember, DRS is not enabled this time by, it will be next time by, as you have to have a certain amount of laps under the safety car restart in order to have it enabled. Here we go, Trat Racer, Cryptic once again. Here we go. That person following Valkyrie for the last spot on the podium, at least on track. That could change with penalties coming to spare. Here's Trat Racer following once again. He's closing that gap for the race victory between 1 and 2. Here he comes to the outside. Cannot do it this time. Cryptic trying to hang on. Remember, Cryptic, I think, It looked like he had a bit of damage, but I don't think he does. He just struggled right there, heading into turn 27, struggled on the power, couldn't get it down. This time he could, as he enters the final lap of the sprint race. It's Strat Racer versus Cryptic. Which way is Strat Racer gonna go? FPL with the fastest lap in the process. FPL and Scyther now battling for 5th in what could be the potential podium. Here comes Strat Racer once again, just not close enough. We have had 23 different podium sitters this season. We're now trying for another one with Strat Racer. Cryptic has one podium to his name already. Trying for another. Since we speak of Cryptic, this would be his first win of the season, same with Strat Racer. Valkyrie and that person are also closing that gap to them as well. They could say something in the thick of penalties. Either one are trying to become the 10th different winner of the season, with 1 and 2 still closing that gap. And look at this time right here, heading to this section. DRS, that rear wing being open for the first time in this battle, in the closing stages of this race. When does he make the move? Here he comes. Closing that gap. He's now going to have the traction and the momentum to turn 27. Here comes the rear wing open again in the slipstream, following Cryptic. Does he pass Cryptic before turn 27, or does he wait? Here he goes to the outside. That person on Valkyrie as well. Yellow flag, switchbacks made behind, but for the win. Cryptic holding Strat Racer off. A slide to the line, and it's going to be a photo finish for second as Scyther collides with the car behind, but Cryptic becomes the 10th different winner this season, and he is held off with an amazing battle with Strat Racer. Unbelievable battle at the end there to take victory. Scyther, 4th on penalties. FBL took the podium right there. A double podium with his team, with FBL and Strat Racer. Let's find out our championship standings right after this one. And there are your podium sitters. Cryptic hung on and won it. The British driver is back on top. It is great to see that in F2. It's Van Amersfoort cars that are 2nd and 3rd, my bad. I'm still getting used to it. I wanted to call him Campos. Thank God I didn't. Scyther there, 7 points on the board for him. Let's see what this does to the championship table now. Mythic, no points. Valkyrie, 4. This should become interesting for our feature race. Blue Gagi short of points once again. He just seems to either come so close or put himself in points and then bin it. Francie as well becomes our 40th different point scorer of the season. That is an RPL F2 record. And fastest lap right there went to FBL at the end. FBL, Strat Racer, double podium for their team. How about that? As you see results, we will get you the championship table currently in just a moment. All right, so our championship can be won in the feature race. And remember, it does pen penalties too, meaning the gap can be extended. So here are some championship scenarios on our hands. Scyther has to score 13 more points than Mythic to clinch the title. Valkyrie needs to outscore Scyther by 3 to stay alive. And I did catch the end of that, Scyther, to respond to what had happened. I saw it in the background there, and I thought to myself, I'm like, Scyther's going down the order. And only lost 1 spot because of that, because of the amount of penalties in hand. Here we come for the feature race. The title could be clinched in this one. It's lights out, and away we go as Scyther leads them off with Blonde, Valkyrie, Mythic, the ones following. And Scyther ducks to the left side, already to protect the lead. At turn 1, cuts Blonde off, but Blonde switches back. And down the inside, we've got yellow flags. That's Goggy and Davey down the order. Mythic switching spots with that person. And now following suit as they come single file to the S section. Here's Invade and Tratracer. They touch wheels. And off the road when Invade, he goes ahead though. And they are now still trying to find their spots and not go side by side through a tricky part of the section. And Mythic's out. That could be the title decided. Mythic causes our first safety car of this race. Excuse me, it's a VSC. And Mythic is absolutely fuming, blaming that one on his controller. His controller potentially disconnecting right there, resulting in a DNF that is crucial for this title race. Now, as we go back to green flags, it's up to what Valkyrie can do for the title. There's contact between Blonde and Scyther. They touch, and Valkyrie wants her chance at it too. They touch again. Davy's got a penalty. More yellow flags at the back of the field. Grandpa involved in one back there too. Single file between the top 4, but they follow suit in a close race for the lead. Here's Blonde on Scyther once again to turn 27 to the outside. Turn 27's been a big overtaking spot in this race. It's been a big spot for crashes as well. Valkyrie to the outside. That person following suit as well. Valkyrie wiggles. And remember, Valkyrie, if she wants to have a chance at second place, this is the day to do it. Fastest lap for Scyther as he leads lap 1. And here comes Blonde again. Contact. Scyther absolutely sends his car at turn 1 and re-enters right in the path of Blonde, but luckily gives him the space as Blonde takes the lead. But Scyther's going to fight this back around the outside line. This is the exact racing you want to see in RPL F2. This is what we've been dying for. This is clean racing between 2 championship protagonists at one point of the season. But for Blonde, it has absolutely vanished itself away, and now we've got a virtual safety car. I believe Blue Goggy is the cause of it again. Grandpa, with damage, entered the pit lane, switched to softs. We still have pit stops underway with differing strategies from the front runners, so we will watch out for that in the closing phases of this race. That is the exact clean racing we want to see. Scyther and Blonde put on an amazing battle at the top 2. Valkyrie got a little hairy right there. Valkyrie was like, I'm gonna mess with you right there. Yeah, I don't know about that. That was a little borderline. But beside that, the top 2, they kept it clean. That's what we want to see. See, when I said last week in Japan we didn't have much clean racing with some crazy stuff going on, that is exactly what I'm talking about this week. Side by side at turn 22. Almost didn't work between Blonde and Scyther. And Blonde stays ahead with Valkyrie following suit. Valkyrie wants her chance as well at this. Scyther ducking out to the outside this time. Wheel to wheel entering turn 27. Potentially 3 abreast. No. And Blonde pinches him at turn 27. Nearly Valkyrie going through. 5 cars under a blanket for the race lead. That person wants his chance. Cryptic does as well. Blonde protecting the inside line. How about Scyther, who's going to get it around the outside? 3 abreast there in the back for turn 1 of this train. That person, Valkyrie, Cryptic. How about Invade with his chance on the inside line? Cryptic switching back now as Goggy is out. Oh, and contact. That's a round for Valkyrie. 2 championship protagonists who are hoping to keep it alive end up crashing Invade's involved as well. He's plummeting down the order too. The top 3 still have a fight on our hands too. Down the inside! At turn 13, they touched wheels! And that person goes through. Remember, Blonde's on a different strategy. Same with Cryptic, also in the DRS as well. A lot of controller issues in this race, it seems. Grandpa has called it quits in the pits. Here's down person with the rear wing open. Which way is he going? He's not going to make the move just yet. He's going to think about when he has to make the move. Remember, Valkyrie is not out of this race. Valkyrie, she's down in 7th. If anything happens to Scyther, game is still on right here for the title to still not be wrapped up today. Scyther protecting that inside line, defending. Now we have the virtual safety car. I don't know if we have the glitch or not, but surely someone has to have damage here. And Gagi is not happy with Davey. That's without a doubt. Is FBL the one with the front wing missing? It's a safety car now. It's a full safety car. FBL is the reason we're under the safety car. So he's got his front wing completely missing. Yeah, it's coming out a little too easy. Invade now is retired. Potentially a crash in the pit lane? Maybe. Francie changing his front wing. FBL doing the same as well. They have made their mandatory pit stops. Yeah, the VSCs and the safety cars absolutely are coming out due to the factor that we have drivers absolutely obliterating their front wings. One was for a crash, one VSC, and the other VSC and now safety car were for front wings completely coming off. Yeah, I agree. What is going on? Yeah, I hear you. I mean, the tier 2 and tier 1 standards have been a lot better than this. Tier 2 has been inconsistent as of recent, so maybe we can give him some flack for that and say it's not that much different, but the fact of the matter is that it's crazy what is going on. People talk about F2 and the driving standards, and I totally understand it now. I was confused at first because when I came in, it was okay, but it's not like it's tier 2 where it's inconsistent. Tier 1's incident ratio's gone up a little bit, but their incident ratio's not that bad. I have a sheet to compare it, right? So the incident ratio with the driver, or the amount of incidents penalized per race, 3.5 for tier 1. It's gotten better compared to previous tiers, right? Whereas previous tiers such as tier 2 have just gone up. 5.8, nearly 6. Nearly double. So as all drivers pit except for Valkyrie right here making their mandatory pit stop, we will see what that does to the running order. But yeah, I mean, tier 1 has gone up, but it's only been slightly. The beginning 4 races of the season have been quite fair, I'll say, right? The last 4 for tier 1 have gone up slightly, but nothing too severe, as F2 has just stayed consistently ridiculous. I think there's been a couple races where, you know, you can ignore some of the dirty driving and say, we've had some clean battles. Today you can say the same with Scyther and Blonde, but besides that, is there anything good to talk about? Clean battle-wise? People have just got to calm down, and if we want to have another season of F2 after next season, then there's a big question on the line of, will it happen? And, you know, I know some people are going to put the question out there of, we're going to certain tracks that promote dirty racing or promote racing where people shouldn't go side by side and people are going side by side. You can blame that on the driver. There are some tracks you can definitely blame and say, well, every league, maybe not every league, but most leagues have issues with it, right? And fair play, I guess. There's some tracks where it's just like, why are we going to it, right? But at the same time, you should be able to drive clean regardless of what track we go to. That's where the issue lies. And that is exactly where there is frustration between the admins and drivers alike. So if you want to join the F2 action next week, for the final 2 races of the season, we go to Imola for next week's Grand Prix. Abu Dhabi for the week after. Later today in Tier 1 is Austria. Next week for Tier 2 is Italy. So we're in Italy twice, but at 2 different racetracks. It's an all-European swing next week with Italy, Imola, and Britain for our races for Tier 2, F2, and Tier 1. Invade calling it quits, obviously, in the pit lane for an absolute very good reason. It's rare for me to say that a driver retiring in the pit lane is for a good reason. Well, I'll say this. It was for his controller continuously disconnecting, according to him. So I absolutely applaud him doing that. If a driver had an issue with their wheel, and their wheel was not fully calibrated and they're continuously racing with it and it becomes an issue, then why are you racing, right? Well, he has his controller which is continuously disconnecting, and the question is, if he were to continue racing, why bother, right? So we see pit stops underway. Still 2 drivers, Fiddlin, who is disconnected, and Valkyrie, still yet to make pit stops in this race. Scyther, your net leader, followed by Det Person and Blonde Cryptic and Strat Racer, who are all on the same compound. By the way, with Searles' race right there as well, over Prema the last time in the sprint race, that gap is just going to continue to extend, and that means we'll have a Constructors' Championship that's on hand next week. I'm going to quickly be right back before we get back underway. We'll go on board with Scyther for the potential restart that we have getting underway in a moment. Valkyrie calls it to the pits for her first pit stop of the evening. Fiddlin as well. Pits, Davey speeding in the pit lane. Francie also leaving the session. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna go out on the limb, and I know I'm gonna be called a complainer for it. Maybe some people will hate me for it, admin-wise, but in all genuineness, I have to say this. You know, look at the viewer count for F2. Look at the total viewer count throughout the time of F2. You wonder, and I don't mean to be mean, I really don't, and admins would probably agree with me on this to some extent. You can see why F2 is the least viewed tier when it comes to the driving standards as of recent. The max viewers for the stream is like 4 or 5. One of the least max viewed races of the season. If you're still watching, I know there's at least 1 or 2 of you. Give us a hello. Give us anything in chat. Honestly, just let me know who's watching, because right now it's very interesting to say the least. You know. And it's a sad thing to see too, because anyone who wants to join the league, they see driving like today, and it's like, you know, you have a little bit of worrisomeness for joining the league. You don't know if you want to join. You have uncertainty, but for battles like Scyther and Blonde, it kind of reassures you, right? I don't know. We have a safety car restart getting back underway, and it is now time to see if the title will be Scyther's today. All he has to do, really, is simply hold on for the rest of this race. Remember, if he doesn't score points today, that's a big thing too. He has to outscore Mythic by 13 points, meaning finish 4th or better with the fastest lap, or do the simple thing and win the race like he's doing right now by leading. Green flag, we're back underway. He's pedaled to the metal once again, and he's got a sizable gap with it. Scyther leads over Dat Person and Blonde. And speaking of different drivers on the podium, I also want to mention Dat Person would be our 25th different podium sitter. Our F2 season in RPL, like I've mentioned before, may have not been the most cleanest, but it's been one of the most competitive when it comes to terms of the podium sitters. Also, Davey, you could just see that was a blatant turn 1 cut right there. Trying to catch back up to the pack right here. I'm gonna go on board with this. We're gonna see if it's intentional or not, as Valkyrie gets by her teammate of Francie. Okay, this definitely looks intentional. Academies, if you have them in Tier 1 tonight, this could be a concern for you. I'm just gonna say that right now, and I'm gonna be as blunt as possible about it. As Valkyrie now is on the charge, FBL has been overtaken. Yeah, that is a little worrisome if you have a driver such as Davey in your academy tonight. This is exactly why. That is now 22 seconds of penalties. Let's go back to the race lead once again. 3/10 the gap. I think... Look, I'll be honest here. We're talking about driving standards, right? Not too long ago. Blue Goggy is one to talk, right? But what's kind of happened recently with Blue Goggy? Blue Goggy seems to be in an incident every race or every other race. And I don't mean to be mean by that. But when he spoke about Davey here in the chat a moment ago, maybe I can start to understand what it was about with the corner cutting going on right there. We'll see if that has any validation when it comes to the clips being sent later. However, we have a battle for the lead getting underway. Scyther has it. Dat Person trying to take it away. And Francie, the other PSR driver, having his fair share of track limits. That's his second race in a row out of his 2 that he's done so far that have had corner cuts, but his first penalty this race. Valkyrie, like I said, she's on the charge. This is perfect if anything happens to Scyther. Here's Titan trying to protect. Here's Valkyrie going around the outside line and does it. Is ahead. Here's Francie on the inside and absolutely sideswipes FBL. FBL trying around the outside. He's got Francie next to him as we head to the chicane. Francie absolutely pushes him out wide, and there's contact. FBL's around. And this is getting a little worrying right now. And both PSR drivers of Davey and Francie are... That is absolutely unacceptable. If you want to go to motorsports commentators getting upset at driving or getting upset at moments, I think you've just added another one to your list. These are 2 new drivers, Francie and Davey, who've just joined the league today, and they think that's okay. Unbelievable. Driving like that is absolutely exactly why F2 is on the risk of being abolished completely after next season. And absolutely, I know the timing is a little bit late, but no doubt about it, a 5-second penalty for Francie right there. That's absolutely unacceptable. Front wing damage being repaired right there. Not okay. We're going to watch FPL and Davey right here on this restart. I know Blonde and that person are close. Actually, we're going to watch this first. Crispy's got a drive-through for speeding under the virtual safety car. Here comes Blonde. Outside line this time. Pinching right here. Blonde's still going to try to hold it around the outside line. And the position has been conceded. Let's go back to this battle because this is where we were talking about questionable driving a moment ago. And for those of you who have onboards and can't clip it, this is on stream right here. As Francie's out the session on track. Davey absolutely squeezing FBL right here. FBL coming back at it. Inside line already has damage. And they both are out. Oh my goodness. Get them out. Thank you, Chiller, for agreeing with me right there. However, I think we've got the dirty driving out of the way. The top 4 is now all under 2 seconds. And Trat Racers following suit. Yeah, it's absolutely unacceptable. I would not say F2's absolutely ended after that one. I'd say both the drivers right there, the new drivers, Davey and Francie, are ended. They should not be allowed back. They should not even be allowed in Tier 1 at minimum today. But that's unacceptable. Crispy speeding in the pit lane, a 5-second penalty for him. We've had nearly half the drivers out of this race. And I agree, driving standards have been absolutely down the drain. I think the 2 who've just crashed out right there, not FBL, by the way. I'm not going to fault him for that. But the 2 who just crashed out a moment ago of the PSR drivers absolutely makes sense. As for reasons why F2 has gone down the drain. If they are out, then maybe we'll see some cleaner driving. Or at least not as bad driving when it's come to this race. Speaking of that, I genuinely think with what you're talking about, DeChiller, with, well, I checked the audit log, Titan. That's all I could say. With the top 4, top 5, this is the kind of battles you're going to see with mental battles back to 2019 and 2020. Here comes Blonde for the race lead once again. That person following, they were so close to contact right there, but they knew better to back out for a move right there. Here's Blonde following suit once again with the DRS going to be applied as we enter 3 laps to go. I'm going to make it a highlight and download it and kind of send that in the Discord after, and I'm going to delete it after so it's not showing on our Twitch. Because I just want to show you and stream what we caught from those drivers. Let's focus on something more positive. The race lead is under 2 tenths now, and Blonde is closing. Blonde and Scyther, 1 and 2 right now, who have both won multiple races. They're the only 2 drivers to do it so far this season. They were close to banging right there from front to rear. And I do not mean it in that way either. Blonde in the S section, just closing that gap. That person following Cryptic as well, who just won the sprint race, trying to go back-to-back for the feature race. Trat Racer also looking for a second podium to add to his name. Scyther already has 9, looking to make it double digits of 10. In fact, funny enough, with the races left in the season, his Blonde slides! Oh, unbelievable how he's able to keep that in DRS, and Blonde also able to keep that person behind. Oh my goodness. Still DRS right here. I was about to say, it's funny enough because Scyther's going to be the only driver this season who's going to have double digits with podiums. As competitive as this F2 season's been, when it's come to the podium sitters and the point scorers, as well as winners, with 10 winners to the list, 24 looking for 25 podium sitters, and 40 point scorers. Scyther's been the one who's never looked back, and that's exactly why he's about to clinch the title today. That's a positive thing we'll get out of today. Don't want to get distracted with the driving standards we've had today, because we're about to see a battle for second place get underway once again. We're about to see a battle for the lead potentially get underway again. And we have Blonde protecting the inside line. He's done it beautifully. He's ahead of that person still. Somehow, after nearly touching, entering turn 1. That is the kind of racing we want to see. To the limit, fair, and minimal contact. And it's still under a second for the lead as we're about to enter the final lap. Are we about to see the new face take champion in F2 here? L74G has won it for the last 4 seasons. Scyther has been absolutely dominant this season. 4 wins already to his name, trying to add a 5th. 9 podiums, trying to add a 10th. And he could be the new face of F2. He's already done great so far this season in Tier 1. That gap is much closer in Tier 1, obviously, but F2, he is showing why he's the man to beat as we're about to enter the final lap. 5 cars still have a chance for this race victory, none of them with penalties. Crispy, your only driver with penalties. And the top 9 are all going to get points. Guaranteed. And I say guaranteed because of Davies' collision right there, 10th. Maybe there could be something done about it to where he could be disqualified. I don't know. Just putting something out there right now. The top 5 now becomes just about the top 3, with them to 3 having DRS as we're about to enter the final lap. The championship is just away from Scyther. The 5th win is just away from Scyther. Does Blonde go for it at turn 1? No, he's a little too far back. But the first sector is where he's been better than Scyther. He closes that gap entering turn 2, 3, and now 4. The battle for 4th still continues. Cryptic and Trent Race are also close as well. Not Florian AI entire race. Well, that is a good point to mention. Is Scyther sliding sideways? Unbelievable! He is still sliding sideways in the S section. The gap is 4/10. It's closing. That person following suit as well. 3/10 now, that gap. Cryptic wants his chance if any of these guys slip in front of him. Half a track to go. You saw Scyther sliding the rears. He does it again. Oh my goodness. How is he holding on to this race lead? He might be giving it away with those slides that you saw in Sector 1 and now at the chicane. DRS enabled. Here we go. Here comes Blonde. He's gonna wait. He's closing that gap though. He's within the slipstream. Blonde, does he go for it? These two going at it again. It's been so many times. The 2 drivers who've won multiple races, the only 2. Blonde around the outside. Scyther's gonna pinch him. They're gonna be side by side. They touch. Blonde into the wall. Scyther is going to win his 5th race and his 10th podium on the season, but there's a new face in F2. Scyther's your champion. After L74G's had it for the last 4 seasons, Scyther takes it away and is now the man on top. He wins the race and the title with it. Fair play to him. What a season it's been from him. With 2 more events to go, 4 more rounds. He's got damage from that spin at the line as well. He has absolutely put the season to perfection. Scyther has a new champion at the top of the table. That person becomes the 25th different podium sitter on the season, and Blonde finishes on the podium again for his 5th different podium. Guys, that is the racing we want to see from F2. That is exactly the battles that it produces. You mentioned the driving. That has been chaotic today. That has been out of hands. The front 4, the front 5 at the end there gave us a show for a while. Stay tuned, everybody. Scyther is the new face of F2. L74G, obviously not putting in a full season this time around in F2. But regardless, it was a matter of time before L74G has the top spot taken back over. And now Scyther hangs on for victory number 5, podium number 10, and title number 1 in F2. Here are your point scores from today, 13 different ones. That could potentially change. Here are your feature race results. Fastest lap going to Cryptic. I believe that's the second time. No, it's not. Here are your full feature race results. Sprint race here as well. There's your ending. Interesting there at the end, I guess, with Blonde and Davey from the gaps, but we'll ignore that. Either way, new face. A new face. Scyther. And he could be taking that away in Tier 1 as well. Speaking of Tier 1, Scyther won a championship in a Mercedes. Scyther won a championship in a Red Bull. And now he could be taking it away once again, being 3 of the last 4 later in the year. And I mean later in the year. There's still a long season to go in Tier 1, guys. And I guarantee you, I'm ready for Tier 1 because the racing today very much needs to be questioned. And definitely more than 2 drivers that I've mentioned on stream do need to be questioned too for what was going on there. Not only that, but Tier 1 action seems to always provide every single time. You want to talk about F2 having a lot of incidents. Well, Tier 1, incidents penalized on average 3.5. That's per race. Incidents penalized. Way better than Tier 2. Way better than F2 when it comes to those ratios. DNF rate for Tier 1, 4.5. Attendance has been up. Been the most attended tier this season. You want to watch some actual action and some more cleaner racing definitively, not just with the question mark? Well, Tier 1's the place to go. Later today, Austria, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. UK time. Ty and Iron Wolf and myself will provide the action. Tune in then. Next week, F2 is at Imola for the penultimate round. I'm your commentator, Ryan Ocon31. It was good to have you join us. If you would join us for today's race, make sure you join us for Tier 1 later and next week as well. And give us a follow if you've not already so you can tune in to the action-packed racing at RPL. Until next time, have a good day, everybody, and we will see you later today. Bye-bye.